So now in part 1 and part 2 of the biggest non-league stadium in each county in England. They'll be linked in the description and also up in the cards. That will link to the playlist of those 2 videos, which will now include this video, part 3, the final part. First of all, this video is sponsored by OneFootball, which, as I've said many times, is a great way to stay up to date with lots of information from the world of football, be it in non-league, in the National League, or up through the Football League into the Premier League, across Europe, across the world. There's a lot of different leagues that are covered in a lot of detail on this app. It's got average ratings of 4.7 and 4.8 on Apple and Android. So it's a great way to stay up to date with lots of different news, and it's highly rated by a lot of people. Got lots of different information such as stats, league tables, fixtures, results, all sorts of different things. And if you want to download it, the link to download it will be in the top line of the description. But let's get straight into the first ground in part 3, and that ground is Spencer Stadium, the home of Banbury United, the biggest ground in Oxfordshire. The ground has a capacity of 4,000 with 250 seats, but there are different sources online that say that the capacity is anywhere between 2,000 and 6,500, but the official league website for the Southern League says that the capacity is 4,000, so that's what we're going with, and that will make it the biggest ground in Oxfordshire in non-league. The club has played at the ground since 1934, and the stadium has got just one small seated stand along the side of the pitch. Now, apart from the City of London, where there are no grounds whatsoever, this county has the smallest, largest stadium, if you get what I mean. It's Rutland, and the biggest ground there is the home of Oakham United. The ground is Main Road in Barleythorpe, has a capacity of 1,000, and all its seating is just a few wooden benches. This is pretty much the extent of the seating at grounds in Rutland. It's a really small county. It's one of the least known ones in England, and one that a lot of people don't even know exists. The biggest town is Oakham, and that's only got a population of 10,000 people. The actual county itself is near to Peterborough. Oakham United play in the Peterborough and District League, which is the 11th tier of English football. But yeah, there's not a lot of football going on in Rutland. In comparison to the counties, the second smallest in terms of population and the 4th smallest in terms of area. Now on to Shropshire, and the home of AFC Telford United, the new Bucks Head, which got a capacity of 6,300 with 2,128 seats. It's built on the site of the original Bucks Head and is opened in 2003. The original Bucks Head had been home to Telford and also Wellington Town for over 100 years prior to that. It's quite an interesting ground because the main stand actually houses a hotel as well as a swimming pool and a gym, and that stand is where all the seats are in the ground. There are 2 covered terraces, one behind each goal. Now to Somerset, and one of the biggest grounds on this list, it's got a capacity of just under 10,000. It's the home of Yeovil Town, it's Hewish Park. The ground holds 9,566 spectators with 5,309 seats. There's 2 all-seated stands, one along each side of the pitch, with a covered terrace behind the one goal. With Yeovil's plummet through the leagues, it's gone from hosting the likes of Burnley, Leeds United and Nottingham Forest in 2014 to now hosting National League football. It's a little bit of a change, but regardless, it is a good stadium for National League level. Now on to South Yorkshire, and despite having towns and cities such as Rotherham, Sheffield, Doncaster and Barnsley, there actually aren't any really sizable non-league grounds in this county. The biggest one is actually Stocksbridge Park Steel's home, Bracken Moor, which has a capacity of 4,500 and 450 seats. It actually joins onto a cricket pitch. The club play in the 8th tier, and there aren't actually any teams from South Yorkshire in the top 3 steps of non-league football, which is why we have to go down to the 8th tier to Stocksbridge Park Steel's home. Onto Staffordshire, and Hensford Town's home, Keys Park. The ground, located in Cannock, holds 6,019 spectators with 1,011 seats. Now unusually for the 7th tier, this ground has a stand on each of the 4 sides of the pitch. It's got seating behind the one goal and also along the one side of the pitch. The 2 stands are terracing. The ground is relatively new. It was only opened in 1995, and it's a very smart ground for the level. Now to Suffolk, and to Bury Town's home, Ram Meadow. Not to be confused with Bury in Manchester. Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk hosts the biggest ground in the county in non-league with 3,500 capacity and 300 seats. The side play in the 8th tier. The ground's been home to the club since 1976. It's most recognisable for its main stand, where it hasn't got a huge amount of seats, but the roof is quite recognisably upward facing. It's pretty quirky. The biggest ground in Surrey is Woking's home, the Laithwaite Community Stadium. Now this ground has got one really big seated stand behind the one goal. The rest of the ground isn't quite as impressive as that one stand, but it is still the biggest ground in Surrey. It holds 6,036 people with 2,522 seats. It's been the home to Woking since 1922. It's got a really interesting blend of a really modern looking huge stand behind the one goal and some old-fashioned terracing and seating around the rest of the ground. So it's a bit quirky, and that's the biggest stadium in Tyne and Wear. It's the home of Gateshead. It's the Gateshead International Stadium. It holds 11,800 all seated. The National League North Side's ground is quite notably an athletics stadium. So there's a big athletics track around the pitch, meaning that the seats are quite a long way from the pitch, but there are an awful lot of seats. There are sections on either side of the pitch that are under cover, but the large majority of the seats are around the side of the athletics track, and they're actually uncovered, so there's no protection from the rain. Onto Warwickshire, and the biggest ground there is Rugby Town's home, Butlin Road. The ground holds 6,000 with 740 seats. Now this 6,000 capacity is unconfirmed, it is a little bit unknown, but as far as I can see and as far as the stats online say, this is the capacity. The side play in the United Counties League Premier Division, which is the 9th tier of English football, and there are stands on all four sides of the pitch, which is nice to see for that level. And for the level, it is a really decent ground. It's the West Midlands, and it's a newly upgraded ground that previously didn't have anywhere near the capacity of what it does now, or at least nowhere near the number of seats that it does now. It's Solihull Moors Ground, the Sport Nation Bet Stadium. Over 1,000 seats have been added to the car park side of the ground, which stretches along the opposite side of the pitch to the main stand, which is now being rebuilt. That's been rebuilt over the last few months, and all of this rebuilding has basically happened due to them wanting to get into the Football League, because they need to meet certain regulations if they're going to be accepted by the Football League, and they came so close almost unexpectedly last season to getting promotion, whereas this season if they do go up, they will be more ready for it, having now made those ground upgrades. Onto West Sussex, and the biggest ground there is Bognor Regis Town's home, Nywood Lane. This ground holds 4,500 with 350 seats. There's a long terrace with a little gradient running along the one side of the pitch. Now onto West Yorkshire, and the biggest ground there in non-league is FC Halifax Town's home, the Shay. It holds 14,061 spectators with 5,000 seats. It's one of the biggest grounds in non-league, certainly one of the impressive ones. It's also a rugby league ground. It's got two large seated stands, one on each side of the pitch, and two large terraces, one at either end. Just in terms of non-league, it is a real superb ground. Back down south to Wiltshire and to Salisbury and their home, the Raymond McKenhill Stadium. It holds 4,000 with 500 seats, and these are contained within the main stand on the one side of the pitch and two small seated stands on the opposite side. The side currently play in the 7th tier. According to Salisbury's website, the ground can actually hold 5,000, but due to regulations they have actually capped it. Now onto the final one, and in my opinion the best one on this list. I am biased though, very biased. It is Kidderminster Harriers' home, Agborough, which is the biggest stadium in Worcestershire. The ground holds 6,238 with 3,175 seats. It's been home to the Harriers since 1890. There's a large main stand with an even bigger east stand on the opposite side of the pitch. There's terracing behind both of the goals. The food is some of the best at football grounds in England, and it wins awards as well for the food. I have saved the best till last, but I am biased as a Harriers fan and full-time employee. So yeah, that concludes this list. The biggest non-league ground in every single ceremonial county in England. Let me know your thoughts on which is the ones that surprised you the most in the comment section down below. How many of these grounds have you actually visited, and are there any that you want to now visit because they are the biggest in that county? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button and click subscribe as well to stay up to date with lots of different videos from non-league football. This video did take an awful lot of research, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, so any feedback, likes, subscribes would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.